Welcome back. Well, to save you guys the pain of watching me de-pin all these connectors, I did go through and do that really fast. I have gotten the speedometer removed and the headlight removed and everything removed. The wiring's ready to back out. It's a painstaking process. The tool that I have is not the best tool. It's a aftermarket, for lack of a better word, piece of crap. I do need to replace it with something a little more quality. Unfortunately, I did have to de-pin it with a tiny screwdriver, which works, and it does take time, and it does, cause some struggles and some fun words to be said. So I didn't film that. I knew that it was going to be a challenge. But anyway, today my hope is to get the turn signals removed, get the control boxes removed. I did start draining the primary, so I'd like to get that off today too, and then see if we can work on getting the primary drive apart. And then whatever else there's time for. I do have a motorcycle that's supposed to show up today to be worked on. We'll see what time that happens. I do have an open shop right now. I had to move some bikes out, move the 48 off the lift so I can put the other bike on the lift. Just trying to make some space, in my small workshop here. But anyway, let's get after it. We'll get these lights off first and then work on the controls here. I'm guessing there's a bolt or a nut on the inside of this housing here, which there is, and I didn't realize that. So I'll never be able to get that off if I don't have that held in place. Now I should be able to get this apart properly. One housing removed. Get the wire tie snipped here so I can pull the wiring out. course, if you are interested in any of the parts that are coming off of this bike, they are being listed on my eBay page. My eBay username is Rocky's Chop Shop. I do have just over 1,200 items currently listed on my page. And of course, as this bike comes apart, I list those items as well. Duplicate the process on the other side here. I'll start by clipping the wires if there are any, wire ties I should say, if there are any. It doesn't look like there are. Maybe one. Not sure what that's hooked to, but I'll remove the housing first, that switch housing. So it looks like it's bound up underneath it. Now that I've got these free, I'll get the screws put back in place so I don't lose them, both the control housing and on the clutch perch. I should be able to feed this up through. The left housing is off. Work on the right side. Get the brake master out of the way. Should be able to remove this housing. Now with all the slack taken out of the throttle cables, I should be able to take these out, take the lines out. There's one. I always like to take these brass ferrules out, set them aside. If I don't set them down, chances are they'll hit the floor and they'll be gone. I don't like losing them. I like to keep them with the cables. That takes the throttle cables out of the way. Now, I just have to get this light undone here. I'm not sure what the wire is hung up on because I can't see it. I have to get the lift down to be able to see what this is resting on. So it's pinched in there. But anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll work on getting the right blinker off. Again, I want to leave the handlebars on this bike, keep them tight. That way, if I do need this lift, I can actually wheel the bike around easier. I know it can be done without the handlebars, but I like having them on. Should be able to remove the housing easily. Let's see if we can find out what this wire is hung up on here. Might be just this other wire. So we'll remove that next. Makes that front end pretty bare. So we can feed this back out now. Brake reservoir out of the way. That was wrapped around, not sure why. So we actually wrapped it around the control housing wires and then used a wire tie on it. So that takes care of that. Get the mount put back in place, the light back together. Work on getting this right side switch housing pulled, get its screws back in place. That's onto the primary. Try to get that off today, see how far we can get. Second blinker put back together. Let's feed the wires out for this switch housing. See if there's enough room to maneuver around the extra long studs there on the top clamp. just enough room to slide it by. All right, second switch housing is out. Looks like our fluid is pretty much done draining. I'm going to move parts and pieces out of the way. There's usually residual fluid inside, so I'll pull the pan and I'll actually put a couple dry mats down, so that way if it does leak, or when it does leak I should say, it'll capture all of that liquid. Drain plug back in place, that way I don't lose it. The threads are actually really nice on this. Often when you find these things, the threads on this drain plug are just chewed up. They're just terrible. This one is actually in really nice shape. Pull this pan and get this out of the way. Dump that later. Throw a couple of these mats down. Alright, we'll get this primary cover loose here. Get this ready to take off. Gone ahead and removed the shift lever already. What's nice is all of the starter and the solenoid and all the components there are all in working condition, which is great to know. Often I get those parts and you can bench test them, but under load they don't always work properly. I don't have a good way to test them other than on a bench without a load. This setup I know works because I replaced all the parts that didn't work. After I get this outer primary off, I'll work on getting the starter and the solenoid and all that stuff unhooked. So when it's time for the inner primary to come out, it'll be an easier transition. I may not have the proper clutch hub puller parts to get this clutch hub out. Not sure if this has ever been apart before or not. That seal seems to be pretty stuck, so maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. And that's doing its job and catching all the extra primary fluid that is dripping all over it, which is nice. I'm not making a giant mess all over the lift. This is a replacement gasket. It does have a replacement gasket kit in it, so at some point in time, this was replaced. But the inside of this primary is super clean. It does look really nice. I mean, obviously there's oil in it or primary fluid in it, but it is very clean. As is the inside of the primary. Looks nice in here, looks new in here. Clutch basket's in amazing shape, honestly. And all the parts look really good. Chain wasn't out of spec. Looks like the holes in the primary look good. I'm guessing from here at this point, it's going to be removing the solenoid, getting the starter unbolted from the back, if there's room to work. So we'll move the camera to the other side so you can watch that process. And we'll see how far we get there. If I can get that far today, that'll be a win. I want to get to a good stopping point before I don't have time. Let's shift around the other side so I can work on those few things. believe I have just enough room to go through and remove. I know I can take the solenoid out. I'm pretty sure I can take the starter out. It looks like there's enough space to do that without interfering with any of the other electronics or oil lines or any of that stuff. I should be able to pull this stuff directly out. So what I'm going to do from here is start unhooking the electrical wires. The battery's out. I know I didn't say that in the last video. The battery has been out for a while. I did take that out so I could throw it on the tender. So that's actually been gone for a little while. That's charging. I'd like to keep that battery in good shape because it is a good battery. I'll find another project to use it in. I didn't want to just waste it. And obviously you don't want to leave it hooked up, while you're doing any kind of work on a bike. It's always a bad idea. So I did take that out even before I started filming. All right, let's get to unhooking the starter and the solenoid. Currently working on the wiring. I'd like to get that out of the way first. So pull the wiring off the solenoid here. And then once I have the wiring out of the way, then I'll be able to actually work a little bit easier. Should have more room. Not that there's not a lot of room here, there is. Got plenty of space here. I just want to have the wiring out of the way because it's needless at this point. I don't need any of the wiring on or hooked up. And that will help to get the main wiring harness off the bike and keep it intact. Always makes me nervous with these, backing them off. I've broken a few solenoids doing this. This one shouldn't because it is brand new. It still makes me nervous. Alright, with that I will go ahead and put the lock washers and the nylock nuts back in place on the solenoid, just so they do stay together. Next, we'll get the solenoid removed. Alright, and that's right out of the way now. We'll put its ugly boot back on. I just recycled the old one, I used it again. It's not in the worst shape I've ever seen. It is pretty stiff, unfortunately. That's part of the problem with these things, they do get stiff. And when they're not malleable, they're kind of a pain in the butt to work with, but it's the only one I had, didn't have a replacement one, so that one went back on. Next, we'll work on getting the starter out. Some long-winded bolts in there. Now I believe this thing should come loose. It should be pretty close to being able to be removed. Should be just enough room, I think, to swing this thing out. I hope. Transmission vent tube is right in the way. I would have just enough room to squeak around it. Between that and the oil tank, it's looking like I don't. Unfortunately, I'm not able to remove the starter. There's not enough room between the transmission and the oil tank, and I don't want to go that far today. I also cannot remove the primary drive. I don't have the proper clutch hub tool here in the shop, so I'll have to get that from the house. That's the disadvantage of having tools in two different spots. You know, working on bikes and working on there and working on bikes here, you know, that doesn't always leave you with enough tools in the right places. So I'll have to come back and work on that next time. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys following along. If you like this type of project, please continue to follow and subscribe to the channel. I do tear a lot of bikes apart. I do sell a lot of parts. Of course, if you are interested in any of these parts or pieces, they will be listed on eBay today. So check that out. Again, that's Rocky's Chop Shop on eBay. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to, please share this video with your friends if they're into the similar or same things that we are. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up or a like. I appreciate it. As always, thanks. We'll catch you next time.